Miss Greta was a harsh, puzzling educator who had instructed at Greenwood High for north of 30 years. Room 305, her homeroom, was notorious among understudies. They said the air felt heavier there, that the clock ticked more slow, and that the room appeared to be hazier in any event during brilliant evenings. Lucy, a splendid however doubtful understudy, excused these accounts. "It's simply a room," she told her companions. In any case, everything transformed one stormy night when she remained after class to finish her exposition. The room hushed up aside from the weak scratching of her pen on paper. Miss Greta sat at her work area, evaluating tasks peacefully. The glaring lights glinted marginally, creating ghostly shaded areas on the walls. Lucy was somewhere down in focus when she felt a virus draft. She looked up to see the entryway unlatched, however she was certain she'd shut it before. Disregarding it, she got back to her work. "Lucy," Miss Greta's voice called delicately. Lucy turned upward. Her instructor was gazing at her with a power that caused her hair to stand on end. "Indeed?" she answered reluctantly. "At any point do you contemplate the understudies who stayed here before you?" Miss Greta asked, her tone unusual and far off. Lucy glared. "Not actually." "Why?" Miss Greta inclined forward, her eyes unblinking. "This room has history. A few understudies. Never left." The words sent a shudder down Lucy's spine. She giggled anxiously. "That is no joke?" Miss Greta grinned, yet it didn't contact her eyes. "Obviously. Simply a story to keep you inquisitive." Lucy got back to her paper, yet she was unable to shake the anxiety. The shadows appeared to move at the edges of her vision, and the air became colder. At the point when she gazed upward once more, Miss Greta was gone. Her seat was unfilled, turning somewhat as though somebody had quite recently cleared it. "Miss Greta?" Lucy called out, her voice shaking. There was no response, just the weak squeak of the old wooden planks of flooring. Lucy stood, her heartbeat dashing. She strolled toward the entryway, yet it closed before she could arrive at it. The lights flashed fiercely, diving the room into discontinuous murkiness. At the point when the lights steadied, Lucy panted. The work areas were at this point not vacant. Spooky figures of understudies filled the seats, their faces pale and eyes empty. They gazed at her quietly, their looks loaded up with a blend of distress and allegation. Toward the front of the class stood Miss Greta, her face as of now not human. Her highlights were bent, her eyes sparkling with an unnatural light. "That is no joke," she murmured. Lucy shouted, yet the sound was gulped by the abusive obscurity. Individually, the spooky understudies rose from their seats, their clear hands going after her. The following day, Lucy's work area was vacant. Her companions said she probably returned home debilitated. However, the reports about room 305 became more obscure. A few guaranteed they could hear Lucy's voice late around evening time, asking to be let out. Others said Miss Greta actually showed her quiet, spooky class, and Lucy had turned into her freshest understudy. Nobody thought for even a moment to remain late in room 305 once more. The quiet example, the reason for Lucy's vanishing. Lucy's shout resounded through the obscured homeroom, yet nobody came to her guide. The phantom figures encompassing her murmured immeasurable words, their voices covering in a chilling clamor. Miss Greta stopped, her bizarre structure enlightened by the weak shine of the spooky understudies. "For what reason are you doing this?" Lucy yelled, her voice breaking with urgency. Miss Greta ventured nearer, her contorted face quiet yet threatening. "Do you have any idea about why this room feels unique, Lucy? It's not the narratives, it's reality. This room is a limit." Lucy's disarray extended. "Limit to what?" "To the neglected, Miss Greta answered. This school was based on the remains of a halfway house. Many years prior, the kids who lived here disappeared during a fire, their cries unheard, their accounts untold. This room was where they took cover. Furthermore, where they died. Lucy's breath hitched as the spooky figures edged nearer. Be that as it may, why me? Miss Greta grinned icily. At regular intervals, the room requests a living soul to support its association with this world. You remain past the point of no return, Lucy. You're the one it picked. Lucy's psyche dashed. No, I won't allow this to occur. She dashed toward the entryway, yet her legs felt like they were swimming through thick water. The shadows appeared to pull at her, hauling her back. The spooky understudy's murmurs became stronger, practically arguing. Save us. Break the cycle. Lucy acknowledged they weren't going after her. They were caught, similarly as she was going to be. Gathering her fortitude, she went to Miss Greta. How would I stop this? Miss Greta's chuckling repeated hauntingly. You can't. This has happened unreasonably lengthy. The room will take what it needs. Yet Lucy saw something. The weak gleam of a silver memento around Miss Greta's neck. It beat faintly with an extraordinary light, appearing to resound with the room's energy. Lucy jumped for it, surprising Miss Greta. As her fingers shut around the memento, a flood of intensity flowed through her, and the room emitted into bedlam. The spooky understudies howled, their structures flashing. Miss Greta let out a throaty shout, her structure falling into a squirming shadow. The memento developed terribly hot in Lucy's grasp prior to breaking into a splendid explosion of light. The room fell quiet. At the point when Lucy woke up, she was separated from everyone else. The study hall was brilliant and vacant, similarly as it had been before that day. Lucy stumbled out of room 305, her heart beating. The heaviness of what she'd encountered weighted, yet she realized she had finished something old and dim. Afterward, she would discover that the tales of room 305 started to blur, the abusive climate lifting. Miss Greta was gone forever, and the room was in the long run changed over into an extra room. In any case, Lucy conveyed the memory and the scars of that evening for eternity. Occasionally, when she passed the old study hall, she would hear faint murmurs, an indication of the spirits she had liberated. What's more, those she was unable to save. As Lucy attempted to sort out what had occurred, the ghostly quiet around her was interfered with by faint murmurs. Maybe the homeroom, however apparently re-established, still held into leftovers of the horrendous occasions. Decided not to allow dread to consume her, Lucy returned to the school library, looking for any records of the shelter or the secretive occasions encompassing room 305. Late night of digging through old documents, she coincidentally found a blurred photo. It portrayed a gathering of kids, with a harsh-looking lady in the middle wearing a recognizable silver memento. A similar one Lucy had broken. The rear of the photo read, Saint, Helene's Shelter, 1925. Chief, Miss Greta Haraway. Lucy's blood ran cold. Miss Greta wasn't simply a phantom attached to the room. She had been the head of the halfway house. The reports affirmed a shocking fire in the last part of the 1920s, yet one detail stuck out. The fire had been managed a mishap. At this point, murmurs of carelessness and remorselessness toward the kids had coursed locally. The following day, Lucy got back to room 305. The school staff had excused her previous cases as pressure-actuated mental trips. However, she knew reality. The homeroom felt unnaturally cold as she ventured inside, her breath noticeable in the air. On the slate, words started to show up in chalk, composed by a concealed hand. You liberated us? However, not her. Lucy understood the memento had just cut off Miss Greta's command over the kids. However, her soul stayed bound to the room. Without completely breaking her association, the cycle could start once more. As Lucy remained in the vacant room, she heard the spooky kids' murmurs. They uncovered reality. Miss Greta had secured them in the storm cellar the evening of the fire, focusing on her effects over their lives. Her culpability had fastened her spirit to the school, and her remorselessness had bound the youngsters also. To end everything, Lucy would have to track down the cellar. Late that evening, Lucy slipped once more into the school, equipped with just an electric lamp and her determination. In the neglected cellar, she tracked down remainders of the past: singed toys, disintegrating furniture, and the weak, waiting smell of smoke. At the most distant finish of the room, she found an old chest. Inside were private possessions of Miss Greta, including a second memento indistinguishable from the one she had obliterated. The second she contacted the memento, the room started to shake, and Miss Greta's infuriated soul emerged before her. "You dare pollute my asylum?" the phantom shrieked, her structure snapping with dim energy. Lucy held fast. "Your season of torturing others is finished. You caused this, and now is the ideal time to liberate them." Miss Greta jumped at Lucy. However, the spooky kids showed up, shaping a defensive boundary around her. Their joined energy drove Miss Greta once again toward the chest. With a last venture of mental fortitude, Lucy flung the memento into the chest and closed it. The cellar ejected in a blinding light. At the point when it blurred, the abusive chill was no more. Lucy glanced around and saw faint grins on the essences of the spooky kids as they blurred, their voices repeating one final time: "Much obliged." The following day, room 305 was simply one more homeroom. The waiting murmurs had stopped, and the severe energy was no more. However, Lucy's life got back to business as usual. She was unable to shake the inclination that the kids' appreciation would constantly accompany her. Concerning Miss Greta, her name and the narrative of her savagery vanished from the school's set of experiences, at long last covered with the repulsions of the past.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button for more videos. Until next time.